Welcome to another episode of the Fanzone Podcast, your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another episode of the Fanzone Podcast. It is, of course, the preview show sponsored by the one and only B2B Workwear. To find out more about our headline sponsor, have a look in the episode description or head over to our website and you can find out everything you need to know about them over there. But this evening we are joined by a special guest as we look ahead to our clash with Leyton Orient, a trip on the road this weekend, and to dissect what that might look like is Paul from Orient Outlook. Paul, how are you this evening, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Thanks for having us on, Ben. Good to see you again.
It is, yeah. You're becoming somewhat of a regular on the preview show, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. It's a great show, and also it's nice to be on the receiving end rather than being the one asking the questions that I'm being asked. So hopefully, I can give you guys a little bit of an insight as to what we'll look like this coming weekend, and what you can potentially expect. Although me predicting things doesn't usually work out that way, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, we always look forward to having you on the show. I think this might even be like maybe our fifth one. I think we've done home and away for the last 2 seasons. This might be your 5th time. So for those of you who are long-standing viewers of the Fanzone Podcast, David has referenced it there. Good evening, Paul. Good to see you again.
Likewise.
And if you want to find out any more about Orient Outlook and go and have a look at some of the stuff that they're doing, then if you head over to the episode description, you'll find a link over there to their socials as well. But we will kick off this evening's episode. It is our first segment, and so we'll play the mid-roll. As always, brace yourself for the music. It's season so far. Orient then in 12th place, mid-table, exactly mid-table, sitting just sort of on the same benchmark as Wanderers. You've played obviously the same 7 games, and you've won 3, lost 3, and drawn 1. Now, as it stands, Wanderers have won 2, drawn 4, and lost 1. From your perspective, then, Paul, are you where you expected to be at this stage of the season? Have you been happy with how results and games have played out? Where were you expecting to be, and how does it marry up with where you are?
So, having had Richie now for our 3rd season, I think second or third start to a season, we've grown accustomed to a slower start than what we would normally like. Okay. Yeah. If you can to put some context to that, last year we didn't really get going until the end of November, mid to late November, and then we had a little surge through December, through to January and February, which pushed us up, as you guys probably remember, into the playoff spots, and we just managed to nick that last playoff spot ahead of Reading last season. So from our point of view, I think there's a lot more patience around the supporters base at the moment. That being said, we've had 15 new signings come in, so it's not an easy thing to bed in 15 new players. We had a massive overhaul. We lost a lot of the loan signings, obviously, that we had last year that helped get us to where we got to. They came good around November, December, which coincided with our upturn in form. Happy with where we are in terms of the league. Some of the 3 losses we've had. We lost at home to Northampton last week, a week before last. That was a really turgid game, a game we probably didn't deserve to lose, probably should have been a draw, but just they had something. There was a moment, and we conceded a poor goal by our standards. It's not something that we we like to see. There's some performances that need to be upped. There's the rationale from the management about us being tired. We don't quite understand how 4, 5, 6 games in, you're saying that the players are tired. We don't quite follow that, and we discussed that in our podcast a couple of weeks ago. So that's not really a valid excuse, given that we've travelled down to Portsmouth on a Tuesday night. Fair enough. We went by train. We stayed overnight. It's not, it's not like you're flying to Australia and suddenly there's jet lag or anything. It's just a train journey. So, but look, I'm not used to the rigors of what elite professional football is like. And Richie has a very high standard, which is fine, and we have a very high press, and there's a lot of effort that goes into what we do. Very, very strong on the press, and that starts from the front. So you're going to be a bit more exhausted than others who deploy different tactics. So 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, and perhaps maybe one day Richie can come on and explain that to us, because as lay people we don't really get it. But look, that being said, we have won 3 of our games. We've drawn out, so out of 7, we've only lost 3 out of 7, which isn't a particularly bad return at this point in the season. We're 12th. We're much further advanced than where we were this time last year. I think we were bottom this time last year. So yeah, it's definitely an improvement.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, last season was, aside from the defeat in the playoffs, it was a huge success for you guys, right? I mean, you took what was a team that I don't think many people had sort of to finish there. He took you quite far, and he took you on what was an impressive run, especially in the second half of the season. You mentioned there, obviously, a little bit of a slow start, which might be, recurring again this season. What is the expectation, though, come the end of the season? Are you expecting to be in and amongst those playoff places again, or was this always going to be we've lost a lot of players, we've brought a lot of new ones in, we're going to need to sort of rebuild and reassess?
Yeah. So you'll see some of the fan base are expectant of a top 6 finish again, given how we developed last season. But I think realistically, sort of anything around mid-table is probably quite decent for us, given, as you've just mentioned, the turnover. So from that point of view, I think as long as we're not in the bottom in a relegation scrap, and we see progress on the pitch and the players trying their best, I think that's going to be acceptable to most fans. And then, because it's been such a rebuild this year, next year will be the one where we'll potentially push on. But you never know. We had a bit of a rebuild last year. We had 5 or 6 loans that came in to supplement the squad, and they all did come good. So you never know how things might turn out. We've had quite a lot of injuries this year as well, which has been quite frustrating as well. Players breaking down with little niggles in pre-season that has been taken then into the start of the season. So I don't think Richie's had a full squad to be able to select from for one reason or another. But hopefully, with those returning now, I think there's only 1 or 2 that are that probably wouldn't make the game on Saturday. But that being said, to go back to your original point, I'd take mid-table at this point, given the large rebuild that we've done.
Yeah, we've had a comment from one of the viewers, Dan, who said, "How highly do you rate Wellings? I wouldn't have minded him if we missed out on Shuey." I mean, he did an exceptional job last season. How are you sort of envisioning his time at the club long term, and how have you found sort of him as a manager so far?
He's an excellent manager. He's managed to help us punch well above our weight. No one would have expected us, given the relative size of our budget. Nobody would have expected us to have been anywhere near the top 6, and probably still don't expect us to be there come the end of this season. We rate him extremely highly. He's really highly thought of. He's just signed a brand new 3-year contract with us. I mean, look, what that means in football these days is obviously by the by, but I think he's got a strong buyout clause, which is possibly the reason why clubs like yourselves, when your roles came up, were probably put off by it, and probably why, if you notice, he's never really linked to any other positions at bigger clubs. When the Huddersfield job came up, and Barnsley and yours and 1 or 2 others, he's not linked. He's not linked to championship jobs either. I think arguably he could do a really good job in the championship with an elite squad. He's got a really elite mindset, probably a mindset that's probably more fitted for the championship or maybe even to an extent the Premier League. So yeah, I think that we rate him highly. I know club management and the new owner rate him extremely highly, which is really important for us. And he's able to do things and get the right players in that can help us play his way, which is really exciting to watch when they're all on their game.
Yeah. Interesting takes there. Obviously, I've admired what he's done with the youth yourselves, and then obviously last season sort of capitalised that for me, to take you all the way into the playoffs and do what he did over the course of the season. Something that we became quite accustomed to as Wanderers fans, that slow start and a resurgence once players have finally realised that the season had started. So it's funny that you should be going through a similar thing. We'll bring you now the latest team news, and thankfully it's some positive news on the Wanderers front at least. So then, Mason Burstow has been given the go-ahead to train with the Wanderers this morning, and he's hoped that he can be involved in the squad at Leyton Orient, which is excellent news. Obviously, he went off against Wimbledon with what looked like cramp, but he was sent off for some scans, and thankfully he's had it all clear. And as Bolton's current top goal scorer, that is reassuring, of course. Fears of a hamstring injury being picked up were put to bed, and he's come through training on Thursday, so this morning, without any further problems, which is, of course, fantastic news. Whether he'll start is a it's a different kettle of fish. We're not quite sure, but it's good to have him back in the squad and involved in training. Owen Toll has come back from international duty with Northern Ireland unscathed, thankfully, but unfortunately Josh Eames came home early with a potential calf issue. He missed the second game for Wales, picks up a little niggle in training, so all we can hope is that it's not too bad. It looks like it's not going to be any significant damage, but we'll have to keep waiting. And you've got a couple others that are still on the cusp of getting back in the squad, with Osei Tutu, Forrester, Dempsey, Vic, not in the plans for the squad just yet, but hopefully not too far away for any of those. But it's okay, we're used to much worse injury updates than that on the Fan Zone podcast. Fingers crossed people come back relatively quickly. But I'm quite happy with the squad, where the squad is at the minute. Paul, what's it looking like down in London then?
Yeah, so as I say before, we've had sort of some niggles and some injuries and whatnot, and I think we're missing possibly one or two crucial players, but it's an opportunity for others in the squad to step up and take that shirt and make sure that they cement their place in the team now. When someone drops out, and Richie's not afraid to drop someone if they've not been performing at the levels that are needed or required from the team. If people have got whatever off-field issues maybe that they may have, that he's not afraid to rest players and make sure that other players, make sure the overall team effort isn't affected. I see some of the comments. We've due some luck as well. We've been terribly unlucky, but maybe that's just because of the pressure that Rich's training regime puts the players on, to emulate a match day in training as best as he possibly can. So, they're pushed hard, they're worked hard. And fundamentally, I think that he's got a reasonably full squad to choose from. I think we might only be missing one or two. So Richie, the club haven't put his pre-match review out yet. That goes out tomorrow, so I've got nothing to really draw on at this point in time, unfortunately.
Nope, it's certainly refreshing, I would say, for us here at Wanderers to have a positive injury update. It feels like so far this season we've been quite okay. But of seasons gone by, oh my God, that's been a difficult segment to go through.
Same. Our injury list has been almost as long as our first team list at points.
Sometimes longer for us as well, actually, yeah.
You're not alone. It's not a Bolton thing. It's a football thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be the nature of the beast at the minute for a lot of teams.
Absolutely.
We'll hand over to lots of people's favourites, our stat man for his staple of the show. It's Get Stat On.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Get Stats On with the Statman. Of course, today we're previewing Leyton Orient on weekend in a must-win game, as I say on every preview, to be fair. But is it not a must-win game if you want to finally get out of this godforsaken division? Hey, but anyway, let's go on to how they play, shall we? So, 4-2-3-1 formation, of course, very common. However, it can look very different on paper. I promise you it is a 4-2-3-1, but on paper it can look like this, Exhibit A against Northampton, and this, Exhibit B against Port Vale. And yeah, it's very, very narrow, but I do assure you it is a 4-2-3-1. Anyway, that is something you can exploit, and we'll come on to that in just a little second, shall we? So, the interesting stats for Leyton Orient: they're third in the league for average possession, but you're second. So it could be interesting to see how that plays out. You may choose, because you're away from home as well, I believe. Hopefully I've done my homework right there. You drop into a bit of a 4-4-2 block like you did in the first couple of games, and you let them have the ball and you hit them on the break. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you think, we're good enough to have the ball and we'll outplay them, which, you know, either can work. It'll just be interesting to see which one you go with. Yeah, they don't really like to play long balls. They love to keep it on the floor. They are second least. That doesn't sound right, but yeah, they play the second least long balls in the division, and it's the same with crosses. They do not like the ball in the air. They like to keep it on the floor. So that is interesting. Maybe that is again something you can exploit, because you're actually very high on the long ball list. But anyway, they're a tad ropey defensively, to put it nicely. They've conceded the fourth most goals in the league. Wow, I cannot speak today. And but the keeper has made 3 saves per game, which is very good. So that kind of suggests it's not really his fault, and it's more the back line. So it could be a game for Sam Dolby to finally start. Hey, but anyway, tactics board should be on your screen now. And this is their average positions from one of those exhibits. I can't remember which one it was. I'm pretty sure it's Exhibit B. And this is sort of the lineup I reckon you might go with. Very similar to the last game. But I've just put Dolby in, because I reckon it's time for a start. He came on after 56 minutes last time. Why not give him a go? Especially with their ropey defensiveness. But I mean, Burstow has been good, so it would be harsh to drop him, to be fair. Now, you may notice I've highlighted one Leyton Orient player, and that is this man right here. The right defensive midfielder in the double pivot. And I say defensive midfielder, he's not really. He is Jack Morehouse, right? Manchester United loanee, and let's not go into why I care about that, shall we? But he is a quality footballer, to be completely honest. And he has one standout attribute that just makes him outrageous. His dribbling is an absolute joke. And I'm sure the Leyton Orient representative can back me up on this. But he can just come deep, pick up the ball, and just run. It doesn't matter how many people try to tackle him half the time. Until he gets to about there, he's normally absolutely fine. And then there's the odd occasion where he bottles the final pass, or his shot is awful. But he is a young player, of course. So if he is playing, which he might not do because he's not played every game, then you have to question the Bolton midfield, because I've sort of gone with the assumption that you're going to play Simons, Morley and Randall again, which would mean Morley's going to be up here and Randall's going to be over here, Gale out there, and Simons has kind of got to run the midfield on his own when you've got the ball. However, if Morehouse is playing and Leyton Orient get an opportunity, say they win the ball back off Randall and he can just run, he's only got to beat one man before he's at your back line, and that is a bit of an issue. So maybe you don't play Morley in this game. Maybe Sheehan comes back in. Maybe Big Eve comes back in. I don't know. It's risk versus reward, because obviously we saw this work very well last game. Morley pushing up, unleashed this man right here. He played his best football, and yeah. So it's a tough one, to be honest. Unless you do what I have suggested, which is bringing Conway into midfield when you've got the ball, because then he still has 2 men to beat Morehouse, to be fair. But it's ballsy either way. But as I was talking about before, their defensive shape is very narrow. Let me see if I can do this right. There is almost nobody on the flanks. as you can see from my terribly drawn lines right there. So basically, as soon as you get the ball, get it wide to this man right here. God, I didn't know I had a straight line feature. That would have been helpful just a second ago. But yeah, when you get the ball, the aim has got to be to get it into the feet of Gale or Sissoko, whoever's playing on that side, Cozy Dewberry or Force, whoever's playing on this side. Because, yeah, that is how you win the game, to be completely honest. Because they are rapid as well, aren't they? Let's be fair. But, yeah, I've not really got much else to say. Just the key takeaways. Watch out for Morehouse. Get it wide. Simple as. Yeah, I shall see you for the review on Sunday evening, of course. And until then, have a very good time and enjoy the rest of the podcast. See you very soon. Goodbye.
It is wonderful as ever from our resident stat man. Paul, what did you make of his segment? Are you a fan of your number 21 Manchester United loanee? Obviously, our stat man is.
Statman's excellent, isn't he? He really knows his stuff. I'm sitting there watching that thinking, wow, someone clearly watches the opposition a lot. Yeah, agree with what he says there. Morehouse is more of a 10, but Richie used him as part of 2 in the 4-2-3-1. Your Stato is absolutely right. We play 4-2-3-1, which is quite fluid based on what the opposition are going to do, and it's adaptable from that perspective. Morehouse has been played in the 3 in previous games. He's had to wait patiently for his opportunity, and yes, from the little that we have seen of him, he's technically an excellent football player. He's absolutely right. The goal that he scored was from literally dribbling and then sort of just getting that shot off. It was a bit rushed, but it counted. It went in, and it was an excellent goal that he scored. So yeah, look, he's very promising. Richie knows what a promising youngster looks like. Richie's ex-Manchester United academy himself, so he's obviously got his connections up there still. And yeah, it looks like another potential prodigal signing from a Premier League academy. So yeah, whether Richie will play, so Idris El Mazouni will play the other position in the 2. Whether Jack retains his spot or whether he goes with Sean Clare or Tyreek Backinson, to be confirmed. But I would probably imagine that he would stick with Morehouse and El Mazouni as the 2 up top. Yeah.
Yeah, you are right. Our statman, he does know his stuff. He
does. He's good.
Are a work of art. Sometimes he gets a little bit mixed up with his squares and his circles and his lines, but we can't all be perfect.
No.
We'll move on to our next segment. This is a new segment for the podcast. So, Paul, you won't have done this one before, but it's nothing to worry about. It's dead straightforward. It's just player swap, which is where we each take a player off the opposition and slot them into our squad where we think our squad needs it the most. So we'll get stuck in with that one. So then, Wanderers fans, get your comments in the chat and make sure you play along at home. Which Leyton Orient player are you choosing to add into your Wanderers side? Obviously, the position that has been of concern for me quite recently, primarily, has been that number 10 spot. Joe Randall has improved, though, it must say. He's made a marked improvement as of late, and he has looked impressive. Especially in that last run out against Wimbledon. So the 10 is still on the cards, but it might not be my choice for this week. Paul, we're going to hand over to you, though. So you have a complete free hit of the Bolton Wanderers squad. Who are you choosing to bring down to the capital?
Yeah, good question. I think for the 10 role, actually, we're probably blessed that we've got 2 or 3 really strong players. We've got Aaron Connolly, who's ex-Premier League, ex-Brighton, who's dropped down the leagues. Yeah, obviously, he's not that Premier League player that he used to be. That being said, we've also signed Don Ballard from Southampton, who's only just joined us, only played 1 game, but looks like a really useful signing. So there's interlinking 9 and 10 switcheroonie around going on there. So I think we're covered quite well in that position. Jack Morehouse is another one that can play in that role. For me, a concern is our goals that we're conceding rather than the ones that we're scoring. We've conceded 12 goals in these games. You've only conceded 3. So not to disrespect Omar Beckles or Dan Happy, because they're both excellent footballers, and Tommy Simpkin, who's the England under-21 goalkeeper that we've got on loan from Stoke. It's difficult to say. Probably someone defensively, defensive-minded, be that right back or left back. I think that we could possibly. I don't know. It's harsh. Like, we're only 7 games in. It's like it's a harsh conversation to have. We've got Teo Daramola from Crystal Palace, who's an athletic left back, but he's learning the trade. We've got Michael Craig as well, as a young up-and-coming player. We've got Tom James as well, but I think from an athletic perspective, it's difficult. I don't know who we'd take. I don't really know your. Truth be told, I don't know your squad as well as I know my own. So I don't know who I would swap out, to be honest. But probably someone from a defensive standpoint.
Plenty of options to choose from, which will be good news for you. I think from a Wanderers point of view, and this might surprise a couple of people, if I was to take anyone out of that Leyton Orient squad, the player that stands out for me is Josh Karomo. He's 26 years old, had a very impressive start to the season, 3 goals and 3 assists in 8 starts, 8 games, I should say, sorry, which is pretty impressive. Obviously, at Huddersfield last season, quite a good signing for you guys. Obviously 12 goals and 2 assists in 40 for Huddersfield last season. Were you surprised when he came around? And how have you sort of reacted to his start to the season? Because it's been a pretty lively one.
Was we surprised? Yes and no. What I mean by that is yes, because he'd played in the Championship. He's probably better quality than League One. Yes, he played at Huddersfield. He's actually inadvertently the guy that gave us the assist for the goal in the last game of the season when we broke away. His under-hit back pass was capitalised on by us and we scored from it. So, but not surprised. We sold him to Huddersfield. So for him to come back to us was no surprise in that regard. I was just surprised that we could afford him because there were other clubs interested in him. And he's a quality player. He's grown and developed. We knew he would. He's bigger. We sold him as a 19-year-old. He's now come back as a 26-year-old, fully grown man. So from that point of view, he's very much in his prime. He's clever. He's intelligent. He's athletic. And like you say, the stats don't lie. He's turning into a really important signing for us. And I'm pleased it's worked. No one's more pleased than I am that one of our own has come back and is now donning the red shirt again. It's fabulous. We love it.
Indeed, yeah, he will be. It's funny you should mention it. You mentioned sort of from a defensive standpoint, looking at someone to reinforce those areas. And in fact, Josh Karoma's he plays on the right for you guys, right?
Yeah, that's right. And Ollie O'Neill plays on the left. But I think Ollie O'Neill might be injured, so I don't know what that's going to look like come Saturday.
Right. Well, if Karoma does happen to play on the right, his competition at fullback will be one of our own, Max Conway, who's had an absolutely lightning start to the season. Who's been fantastic. But yes, we will we'll round off this evening's episode with our What's the Score section, and of course the same rules apply. Get your comments in as we go through this segment, and get your score predictions in the chat, please, folks. Dan was quickest on the buzzer there. He's got his score prediction in. He says 2-0 Wanderers, and Lee Hardman also going for a 2-0 Bolton victory. Myself, I'm not quite that optimistic. David, 2-1 Bolton. I'm sort of more leaning towards your way of thinking. But I certainly don't think it's going to be an easy game. Obviously, Wanderers yet to find, as David has just mentioned there, their first away win of the season. Paul, I'm going to put you on the spot first. I'm going to hand over to you whilst I have some thinking time. How are you feeling ahead of the game? Give us a little bit of a summary, and then we'll round off with your score prediction.
Yeah, I think a little bit apprehensive. We obviously haven't hit our vein of form yet. Hopefully that comes sooner rather than later. Whether that materialises this weekend, look, Richie would have, as has been commented in the comments section, Richie's aware of what your strengths, your weaknesses, where our opportunities and threats lie, and how we'll nullify as best as we can. It's just a question of if the players turn up and deliver on that plan. So look, on our day, I don't think we need to be afraid of anyone in this division. The question is we need to have more of our days than more off days. But I think I take a point now. I think that would be my 1-1. But if you were to twist my arm and say no draws, it's only wins or losses, I think that we could probably just nick it by a goal, be that 1-0 or 2-1. I don't see this being a massively open and expansive game. I think it's going to be quite tight. That being said, you could just thump us 4-0 and like Mansfield did, for example, or 4-1 or something ridiculous like that. But I'm going to keep it realistic. I'm going to go 1-1.
Relatively conservative, which I'm erring towards, in all honesty. Obviously, our manager Schumacher has been referencing for a while that someone was due a little bit of a battering, and it feels like Wimbledon were on the receiving end of that. So all we can hope is that the upward trajectory continues from there and we don't all of a sudden hit a brick wall again. David has gone for a first away win of the season, 3-1. Ed has gone for a 1-0 Whites. Lee has gone for a goal each half. Bolton Wanderer 1963 has said 3-1 to Bolton Wanderers as well. I'm going to go for I think, Paul, like you, I think it'll be a tightly contested affair. I can't imagine it being a game I can't imagine it being very end to end. I think your narrow formation is going to probably cause us quite a few problems, and I think we'll try and play out the wings a lot, but notoriously it hasn't been too successful for us. We've wasted a lot of opportunities out on the wings, and I'm just gonna hope that isn't going to happen again. But on that note, I feel like we might just have enough to tip the balance, if you will, and I think we're going to win 1-0. And I hope it's a really late goal, because I cannot deal with the stress of a 1-0 lead 5 minutes in or something daft like that.
And then holding on for dear life for the other 90 odd minutes.
Yeah.
I know the feeling. We did that against Port Vale on the weekend. We just nicked it in the 95th minute, having gone behind during that game. Good game for the neutral, that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Right then, Wanderers fans, that does round off this evening's episode of the preview show. A huge thank you to all of you who tuned in. And if you are watching this back on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or wherever indeed you get your podcasts from, make sure to come over and join in the live action over on YouTube. If you hit the subscribe button, you will never miss an episode. Leave a like, write in, leave a comment on the show. It really does help us. Tell your friends. The more engagement we get with these episodes, the more Bolton fans can join the community and have a chat with you in a live chat, as you have all done this evening. So thank you very much. Like I said, if you want to check out Orient Outlook, then head down into this description and you can find out everything you need to over there. But cheers, Paul, thank you very much for joining us, mate. It's been appreciated.
Appreciate you. And to anyone in the questions that we haven't answered, at Orient Outlook, message us. Happy to answer those questions. There's a Randall Williams there. There's where I think you'll end up. Happy to answer all of those at Orient Outlook on Twitter.
There you have it. Go and drop them a DM and a follow. Lovely. Thank you very much for joining us. It has been an absolute blast. Until the next time, you've been watching the preview show brought to you by us here at the Fanzone Podcast and sponsored by B2B Workwear. Take care, and we'll see you on Sunday for your post-match show, hopefully for a 3-point podcast again.